When the clock hit 0 on Thanksgiving night, Steelers Nation felt something different in the air. Without taking a single snap, without even stepping on the field, Pittsburgh watched the AFC standings shift in their favor, with the same rush as a last-second touchdown inside a roaring Acrisure Stadium. While everyone else was busy with turkey, stuffing, and those pies that somehow disappear before you even notice, the AFC rearranged itself. And that rearrangement didn't bring just one piece of good news. It brought three updates that directly impact the Steelers' playoff chances, the division race, and the health and momentum of key players heading into a crucial stretch of the season. So stick around, because once you see how every piece of this puzzle came together, you'll realize this might have been one of the biggest boosts Pittsburgh has received all year. And before we dive in, if you're a real Steeler and you believe in this team, hit that like button. It starts with what happened in Baltimore. The Ravens didn't just lose to the Bengals, they unraveled. 5 turnovers, only 14 points against a defense that hasn't exactly been intimidating this year, and another performance from Lamar Jackson that raises real questions about where he is right now. For weeks, people across the AFC North acted like Baltimore was unstoppable, that their mid-season hot streak made them untouchable. But what we saw was a team that suddenly looked vulnerable, almost shaky, and that loss put Pittsburgh right back into sole possession of first place in the division. Just like that, no help required from the Steelers themselves. And with the Bills on deck, a win this week would put Pittsburgh up a full game heading into that showdown in Baltimore next week, the exact moment this division could flip for good. But it wasn't just the Ravens tripping over themselves. The Bengals showed that they're not dead yet. Even with their rough record, they have a path to claw their way back if they pull off another upset or two. And while that sounds like something Steelers fans wouldn't want to hear, it actually underscores something important. The AFC North is still wide open, and nothing is guaranteed for anyone. Cincinnati still has tough games ahead, and if they drop one of those, the Steelers maintain the advantage. Pittsburgh doesn't have to be perfect, they just have to handle what's in front of them. Then the shocker, the Cowboys beating the Chiefs. Kansas City dropping to 6-6 changes the entire wild card landscape. A team that once seemed like a postseason lock is suddenly fighting for its life. And when you look at how the Steelers stack up in tiebreakers, including the one over Buffalo, it becomes obvious how much that Chiefs loss matters. If they're hovering around 9 wins by the end of the season, that opens a door Pittsburgh absolutely can walk through. And even if the Steelers and Ravens somehow finish tied, other AFC matchups could tilt things in Pittsburgh's direction depending on how these next few weeks unfold. But maybe the most important part of all this, at least when it comes to the game that's directly ahead, is the injury news. Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, and Alex Highsmith were all full participants in practice on Thanksgiving. That's massive. Last week, without Rodgers, the offense felt limited. Mason Rudolph struggled to push the ball down the field, something that has usually been one of his strengths. The vertical threat vanished, and the Steelers paid the price. Getting Rodgers back restores balance to the offense, opens up the playbook, and forces Buffalo to defend every inch of the field. Add in DK Metcalf returning to full form and Highsmith rejoining a pass rush unit that already has TJ Watt healthy, and suddenly the Steelers aren't just getting players back, they're getting their identity back. Buffalo, on the other hand, is heading into Sunday with real concerns. Both Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown haven't been practicing, and that matters because this is the same offensive line that gave up 8 sacks last week. 8, against a Texans defense that doesn't even have the level of edge talent the Steelers are bringing. If the Bills are missing both tackles, Josh Allen is going to feel pressure early and often. And when Allen is under pressure, everything about Buffalo's offense changes. His receivers don't separate fast enough, his rhythm breaks down, and he's forced into mistakes. This is why man blitzing, something Pittsburgh has had success with in the past, could be the difference in this matchup. The Steelers don't need to get cute, they just need to attack. And that's why this moment feels so pivotal. Everything is right in front of Pittsburgh. Win these next 2 games, and not only are the Steelers positioned for the postseason, they might have control of the division before Christmas. Imagine that, going up 2 games on Baltimore with only a handful left. A home playoff game suddenly becomes more than just wishful thinking. It becomes realistic. It becomes earned. And after years of frustration, inconsistency, and missed opportunities, Steelers fans know exactly how valuable that would be. Now the question becomes, with the standings shifting, the injuries aligning, and the next 2 weeks shaping the destiny of this season, how confident are you in the Steelers making this push? Starting right where things left off, The urgency surrounding this stretch of the season begins to feel like a slow-building pressure that every Steelers fan recognizes. It's the feeling you get when the team stands at a crossroads, not drifting, not scrambling, but staring directly at an opportunity that could redefine everything about how this season is remembered. And the truth is, the Steelers haven't been in a position like this in a while, a chance to control their own fate with momentum building, key players returning, and a division rival stumbling at just the wrong time for themselves and the perfect time for Pittsburgh. When you look at the matchup ahead against Buffalo, the equation becomes even clearer. The Steelers don't need to be perfect to win. They need to be disciplined, physical, and patient, everything this roster is capable of when the game plan aligns with the identity that has defined Pittsburgh football for decades. With Aaron Rodgers back under center, the deep passing game returns as a legitimate threat. Defenses can no longer creep forward, clog the run, and dare the Steelers to beat them over the top. Instead, defensive coordinators must think twice about leaving safeties low, and that hesitation opens a lane for Jaylen Warren to become the focal point of this game. His physical running style, combined with Buffalo's weakness against the run, is exactly the kind of matchup where a back can take over a game and let the offense dictate the pace instead of reacting to it. Defensively, the opportunity is just as clear. This is the type of week where T.J. Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig can take the field knowing they have a chance to wreck everything Buffalo wants to do. If both offensive tackles for the Bills end up unavailable or limited, the edge becomes a place Pittsburgh can attack every single drive. And when Josh Allen is forced to move, to improvise, to throw under duress, the Bills' offense becomes more chaotic, more turnover-prone, and far less explosive. It's not about containing him entirely. No team in the league can do that. It's about dictating the terms of his discomfort. Pressure early, pressure often, and pressure with purpose. But beyond matchups and personnel, there's an emotional layer to all of this that can't be ignored. Steelers fans have been waiting for the moment where everything clicks, where the offense and defense both show up in the same game, where the energy on the field matches the expectations off of it. There have been flashes all year. Games where the offense looked promising but the defense stumbled. Weeks where the defense suffocated opponents but the offense couldn't finish drives. And yet, through all the inconsistency, the Steelers have stayed in the thick of the AFC race. That alone says something about the resilience of this group. And here's the part that changes everything. For the first time in a long time, the path to the division doesn't feel like a long shot. It feels attainable. It feels earned. Beat the Bills. Handle business against Baltimore. Put pressure on the rest of the AFC instead of absorbing it. That's how division champions are made. Not through luck or inconsistency, but through seizing opportunities exactly like the one the Steelers have in front of them. With every step forward, the stakes grow. And if Pittsburgh delivers in these next two games, this fan base might finally get something it has been craving for far too long. A home playoff game and a real shot at finally making noise in January again. But now, it's your turn. Before we wrap up, I want to know one thing from you. Picking up exactly where we left off, the weight of these next moments in the Steelers season doesn't just rest on matchups or standings. It rests on the identity this team chooses to embrace. Because if there's one thing that defines Pittsburgh football, it's the refusal to back down when the path gets tough. And right now, with the Bills ahead and the Ravens looming, the Steelers have the chance to prove that this season isn't about surviving, it's about taking control. Stepping into this game against Buffalo, the atmosphere becomes something different. It's not just another AFC matchup. It's a measuring stick. It's the type of game where the Steelers can show that their improvements, their adjustments, and their resilience are more than just talking points. Aaron Rodgers returning gives this offense the confidence and structure it lacked a week ago. His ability to read coverages, manipulate safeties, and extend plays transforms the way defenses respond to Pittsburgh. Suddenly, receivers like DK Metcalf aren't just options, they're mismatches. And when a quarterback of Rodgers' caliber is on the field, every defensive mistake becomes an opportunity for 6 points. But the heart of this game still beats with the ground attack. Jaylen Warren's style, violent cuts, low pad level, relentless drive, is perfect for a defense like Buffalo's that has struggled all year to close run lanes and finish tackles. This is the type of game where Warren can set a tone early, forcing the Bills to load the box, which then opens the throwing lanes that disappeared last week. Football starts with physicality, and the Steelers have a chance to dictate it from the opening snap. And when you shift over to the defense, the opportunity becomes even more pronounced. There are weeks in a season when the pass rush simply has to take over, and this is one of those weeks. If Buffalo is missing both tackles, the edge becomes a battlefield the Steelers can dominate. T.J. Watt knows how to smell weakness. Alex Highsmith, fully healthy, becomes the perfect complement, and Nick Herbig brings that burst and unpredictability that offenses hate to account for when they're already stretched thin. Every snap becomes a chance to disrupt Josh Allen's rhythm, force quicker throws, shrink the field for his receivers, and turn pressure into mistakes. And the Bills have shown repeatedly this year that when Allen is forced into frantic play, turnovers follow. Look deeper, though, and something bigger is happening here. For the first time in a long time, the Steelers fan base feels a spark again, a sense that this team isn't just hanging around the playoff picture but is positioning itself to strike. All the inconsistency, all the frustrating close losses, all the weeks where the defense or offense seemed out of sync, they all circle back to this moment. The division is there for the taking. The playoff bracket is wide open. Other AFC teams are stumbling, and Pittsburgh is getting healthier at the exact right time. This is the part where champions separate themselves. Not when things are easy, not when schedules are soft, but right now, when every decision matters, when every snap feels heavier, when every game becomes a step towards something bigger. Beat Buffalo, and everything accelerates. Head into Baltimore with momentum, confidence, and the division lead. Win that one, and the entire complexion of the AFC North changes, not just for this season, but for the way people talk about the Steelers moving forward. And that's why this stretch feels so massive. It's not just about standings anymore. It's about the team rewriting the narrative of their season. It's about showing the AFC that Pittsburgh isn't fading, they're rising. That all the early setbacks weren't signs of collapse, but signs of a team finding its identity before the biggest moments arrived. If the Steelers handle their business, if they deliver in these next 2 games, this fan base might finally feel something that's been missing for years, belief backed by results. A sense of momentum that isn't imagined, it's earned. And once you enter December with that kind of momentum, anything can happen. And continuing from that exact point, the quiet truth underneath all of this is that the Steelers are stepping into the final stretch of the season with something far more valuable than luck or favorable standings. They're stepping in with clarity. Clarity about who they are, what they need to be, and exactly how slim the margin for error is if they want to turn this season into something meaningful. It's the kind of clarity teams usually find too late, but Pittsburgh is finding it right when the door to the postseason is cracked open wide enough to matter. And when you talk about clarity, nothing highlights it more than the sense of urgency that the players themselves have been reflecting. You can feel it in the way the defense has tightened its communication, you can see it in the way Rodgers has taken command of the offense in practice, and you can sense it in how the depth pieces, the guys who don't always get the spotlight, have stepped forward knowing they may be asked to deliver defining snaps in huge moments. There's a sharpness in this team now that wasn't fully present early in the year, and it shows up in the details. Cleaner route timing, more decisive red zone play calling, and a defense that has stopped waiting for someone else to make the big play and has started creating those moments on purpose. The matchup with Buffalo becomes a game of identity as much as strategy. The Bills are desperate, fighting to avoid a collapse that would stun the league, and desperate teams are dangerous. But Pittsburgh has something Buffalo doesn't have right now, a sense of upward movement. The Steelers aren't simply trying to avoid falling out of a playoff race. They're trying to take control of it. That difference in mindset matters. It changes how you line up. It changes how you respond to adversity. It changes how you finish games. The defensive front knows exactly what this opportunity is. There are games where great pass rushers must simply dominate, and this is one of those. TJ Watt senses these moments like few players in the league ever have. Highsmith returning healthy adds the balance that makes it impossible for Buffalo to shift protections one way, and Herbig brings the burst that turns messy plays into game-changing ones. This doesn't just give Pittsburgh a chance, it gives them an advantage. Bills fans know it, and you can bet Josh Allen knows it too. But maybe the most compelling element here is how the Steelers' offense is positioned to complement that defensive aggression. With Aaron Rodgers back, the offense doesn't have to play reactive football anymore. They can dictate pace, stretch the field, force safeties out of position, and make Buffalo defend deep zones they haven't had to defend effectively all year. DK Metcalf returning at full speed changes everything: spacing, leverage, coverage shells, and how often Buffalo can commit extra defenders to the run. And when Jaylen Warren gets rolling behind a defense that's suddenly spread thin, the entire tone of the game shifts. That's how you take command of a matchup, not through one big play, but through layers of pressure that build until the opponent breaks. And make no mistake, if the Steelers win this game, they walk into Baltimore with the kind of confidence that can tilt a rivalry on its axis. The Ravens are staggering. The AFC is inconsistent. The division is ripe for the taking, and the Steelers have a chance to seize control of their season in a way that ensures they aren't just participating in the playoff conversation, they're shaping it. That's why these next moments matter so much. Pittsburgh doesn't need perfection. They need execution. They need confidence. They need the identity that made this franchise one of the most respected in the NFL. And for the first time this year, you can feel that identity forming at exactly the right time. If you're still here with me, then you already know what comes next. Make sure you hit subscribe, drop a like to push this video out to more Steelers fans, and click the video that just popped up on your screen to keep following this journey. Here we go, Steelers. The story of the season is far from finished, and continuing seamlessly from that point, the feeling surrounding this team becomes something you can almost touch, a mixture of tension, belief, and that familiar Pittsburgh edge that shows up when the season starts tightening and the games begin to truly matter. It's in these stretches, these final handfuls of weeks, that teams reveal who they really are. Contenders rise, pretenders fade, and the Steelers, for the first time in a long time, look like a team ready to push the ceiling higher instead of simply fighting to stay afloat. You can sense it in the way the players talk about these upcoming games. There's an understanding that opportunities like this don't come around often. To have control of your postseason destiny, to get healthy at the right time, and to face opponents with vulnerabilities that align perfectly with your strengths, that is rare. And the Steelers know they have to capitalize on it. There's no waiting, no easing in, no letting the moment come to them. This stretch demands aggression, precision, and an unwavering mindset that every snap could tilt the season. And that's where the leadership of guys like Rodgers becomes invaluable. He brings a sense of calm to chaos, a measured presence in moments that usually rattle less experienced quarterbacks. When he steps on the field, the offense becomes more organized, more intentional, and more dangerous. His command allows playmakers around him to play faster, with confidence, without second-guessing routes, timing, or spacing. DK Metcalf benefits immediately. His chemistry with Rodgers brings a threat that Buffalo has to respect from the first play. And as soon as defenses have to honor that deep boundary presence, the middle of the field becomes a playground for underneath routes, play-action designs, and misdirection that the Steelers haven't been able to tap into for weeks. But even with the offense sharpening, the heartbeat of this team remains its defense. Pittsburgh's identity, generation after generation, has lived on that side of the ball. And this week, that identity has a chance to be overwhelming. When elite pass rushers smell blood, games change fast. What knows when an offensive line is vulnerable? Highsmith returning amplifies the pressure. Herbig creates chaos on key downs. And the interior, even with injuries, knows how to collapse pockets just enough to force Allen off his spot and into the kind of throws that feed turnovers. And when the defense forces those moments, it feeds into the offensive flow. Short fields, faster scoring opportunities, momentum that swings like a hammer. That's how playoff-bound teams operate. They don't grind through entire games hoping things break their way. They manufacture the breaks. They force the momentum. They make the opponent react. And with the AFC turning into a collision of inconsistency, the Steelers have stumbled into the perfect storm. The Chiefs slipping, the Ravens collapsing at the worst possible time, the Bills fighting through injuries and defensive breakdowns, the Bengals dealing with their own volatility. Through all of that, Pittsburgh is the team quietly gaining ground, quietly improving, quietly stepping into a moment that could turn this entire season into something special.